On today's episode of the Cryptoverse, how a mysterious miner could decide Bitcoin's future. TunnelBear is the simple VPN app that makes it easy to browse the web privately and enjoy a more open and secure internet experience. Try TunnelBear for free by checking out the link in the video description below. Hi there guys, and welcome to the latest episode of the Cryptoverse, your regular dose of news and commentary on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies and blockchains. I'm your host Chris Coney, so let's get into today's news. So today we turn once again to the wonderful CoinDesk, coindesk.com. I've selected this article today, which is entitled ViaBTC. ViaBTC rises, how a mysterious miner could decide Bitcoin's future. So this miner is called, the mining pool, it's called ViaBTC. And when it says ViaBTC rises, we can assume that it's gaining in popularity. So let's see what we've got. It starts out by saying Bitcoin's, quote, most professional mining pool has become its most controversial. Now I'm glad they put that in quotes because, I mean, what does an unprofessional mining pool look like? Well, that was just an interesting observation. So then here I've highlighted this bit that says, the lack of progress, real or perceived, with the Bitcoin scaling debate, by the way, has so far mostly affected Bitcoin's business community, many of which are dependent on technical improvements in the network for their additional growth. Indeed, while Bitcoin's primary development group has its share of detractors, the majority of startups and service providers continue to support Bitcoin Core and its work. So just quickly, for those of you who are not aware, Bitcoin Core is a software development team who are working on one version of the Bitcoin software. There are lots of other alternatives, and they all have their own opinions on how the Bitcoin network should work and the rules and all this sort of stuff. And specifically what's been going on for a while is how to increase the capacity of the Bitcoin network so that more transactions can go through it and it can be a real credible alternative to the banking system. So this part about the business community being dependent on technical improvements for their additional growth, I tend to agree with that. If we take that quote from Steve Jobs that goes, you know, people don't know what they want until you show it to them. I kind of see Bitcoin like this. I knew what the problems were with the fiat currency system, but other than buying gold, I didn't know what the solution was because there was no way out of the fiat currency system before Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. So now Bitcoin is offering its services to people. They're discovering solutions to problems they didn't even know they had, right? I've been studying economics for a long time, but I'm talking about people who still weren't aware of the problems prior to Bitcoin being created. So that's one of the wonderful things about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. When people hear about them, it kind of brings them to awareness of what problem does Bitcoin solve, and then it directs their attention to the problems with the fiat currency system, right? So similarly, while businesses can do all the market research in the world, most consumers don't actually know what they want. And this loops back to the article because as the capacity of the Bitcoin network grows, we will find uses for that extra capacity. And I refer to this as the vacuum law of prosperity, which states that nature hates a vacuum. So for example, if you want a new sofa, then donate your current sofa to charity. Trust me, you won't sit on the floor for long. And if you want a new car, then sell your current one because, trust me, you won't walk for long before a new car shows up. And this applies to Bitcoin because the new unused capacity that we will create is a vacuum, which will kind of suck in innovations simply by the fact that the spare capacity is there, right? That's just my view on it. So then the article goes on to say, in recent weeks, ViaBTC, which is a Chinese mining pool, became one of the first providers of mining software to switch its client from the official version of Bitcoin Core to an option provided by Bitcoin Unlimited, which is a rival software development group that supports alternative methods for scaling that's focused on creating a more variable Bitcoin block size. So increasing the block size as a way of increasing capacity of the Bitcoin network is arguably a lot simpler of a solution than developing these new technologies like Segregated Witness and the Lightning Network and so on. And like we just read a minute ago further up in the article, the majority of startups and service providers in Bitcoin are continuing to support Bitcoin Core, and Bitcoin Core believes in sticking to these 1 megabyte blocks. Now get this bit, in green. It says further, because the rules for Segregated Witness require 95% of Bitcoin's hashing power to approve the transition, ViaBTC could effectively block its wider adoption or wider release. According to blockchain.info, over the past 24 hours, ViaBTC accounted for 7.3% of blocks discovered, though this has been as high as 9.6% in recent days. So this is how consensus is reached. 95% of the mining power would need to be running the Segregated Witness code in order for it to be automatically activated by all the nodes, right? Meaning that you only need 6% of the mining power to refuse to run Segregated Witness, and it doesn't happen, right? And ViaBTC appear to be in the region of doing that all on their own, let alone any other miners who don't like Segregated Witness. So then the article goes on to say here, in a blog post issued last week, ViaBTC criticized the proposal for Segregated Witness, suggesting that it would fundamentally alter the structure of Bitcoin transactions. And in an interview with CoinDesk, Heipo Yang, the founder and CEO of ViaBTC, said there was nothing that would change his mind about continuing to support the multiple developer groups. And he said, quote, I believe Bitcoin needs more development teams, and I've decided to support Bitcoin Unlimited, close quote. So, ViaBTC doesn't seem to like the idea of Segregated Witness, because that's a technology being developed by Bitcoin Core, which is not one of these development teams that he is supporting. So moving on then, under this next heading, which is big versus small, the bit I've highlighted in purple here says, first discussed in September of 2015, Bitcoin Unlimited is a proposal whereby every individual node operator and miner would be able to choose a block size that they prefer rather than having to stick to the 1 megabyte limit enforced by Bitcoin's consensus rules. As a result, the argument goes, a kind of block size market will emerge that meets the demands of the network at the time. So this is a market-based approach to solving the problem. And when a guy like me hears a solution like that, I start getting excited on the basis of principle and based on my belief in free market solutions. And then the grey bit says, changing the Bitcoin block size, though, does require a hard fork, which Bitcoin Core has been resistant to do. Complicating matters is that a hard fork, two blockchains with different rule sets are created, with Bitcoin miners and node operators choosing their preferred option. And then it later says, Segregated Witness, by contrast, requires only a soft fork, meaning nodes are still part of the Bitcoin network even if they don't upgrade. They just won't be able to run and broadcast SegWit transactions. So my take on that is this is a legitimate concern, considering we've ended up with 2 Ethereums. So the Bitcoin network is 10 times the size of Ethereum in terms of market cap in US dollars. So there's a lot more at stake. Now, because Bitcoin is the most liquid gateway and out of fiat and into Bitcoin, I would argue that if Bitcoin fails, it could probably bring down all other cryptocurrencies with it. And it says here that SegWit, by comparison, is a soft fork, meaning everyone stays part of the Bitcoin network whether you run the SegWit code or not. And I can see that's the safer option because it keeps everyone within the same network and it prevents any hard split, down the middle. So now let's skip further down the article here to the bit that I've highlighted in red. Here it is. This is under a heading called Room for Compromise. It says here, Eric Lombroso, a Bitcoin developer and CEO of Cypherex, expressed disappointment in how the scaling debate has become so politicized. And for me, this really gets down to the very core of the matter. Excuse the pun. We can spend as much time as we like having intellectual debates about which scaling solution is best and why. We can do that till the cows come home. But even the most promising technologies will be of no use as long as we humans allow our individual egos to get in the way of progress. And if Bitcoin fails, it's unlikely to be because we picked the wrong scaling solution implementation. It will be because the relationships within the community broke down and destroyed the human foundation that Bitcoin is built on. So thanks for joining me today, guys. If you liked this episode, hit the like button. If you disliked it, hit the dislike button. Leave me a comment below if you would, with some feedback, and get subscribed. Or even consider supporting me by going to cryptoversity.com/podcast and sending me a Bitcoin tip to the address on that page. If you would like to support me without actually spending any money, then click on the Steam It logo and vote for this episode on the Steam network. That will get me some cryptocurrency without you having to spend a penny. If you prefer something physical in exchange for your donation, then head over to the Cryptoversity store and buy yourself a t-shirt with the Cryptoversity branding on it. That kind of thing helps me out a lot. Or if you would like more structured information on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies and blockchains, head over to the courses section and buy yourself an online course. But that's all from me for today, so until Monday and the next episode of the Cryptoverse, it's me, Chris Coney, saying bye for now.